in the house.
That story as well. No, but I was not title deed.
Alondra today, she has title deeds to the house. This is the Breakfast Show on Camnet TV today on Friday, the 3rd of March 2023. We are counting down to 2023. It is exciting to actually see you there, our viewer, knowing that God has kept you between January, February, and today, March. You are safe, and we are having a conversation this morning. I am your host this morning, Prudence Chota, and we will be having a wonderful discussion between now and 09 hours. Remember, this platform also gives you an opportunity to call, make those contributions and submissions regarding the topic of discussion that we will be having today. A very interesting discussion will be going on this platform. I know a lot of you are wondering what is it that we are discussing. So this morning we are discussing something very important. I do not want to preempt myself or excite you, but you will later on in the program discover what is it that we are discussing with the guest that I'm having in studio today. But this morning, before I bore you with much of the talking, we are going to go into our morning boost. Remember, a healthy nation relies on a healthy people. You can only keep safe, you can only keep yourself healthy if you exercise with us. Camnet TV cares for you. That's why if you do not have access to go in the gym, we bring you the gym in the comfort of your home, in the comfort of your bed, or at your workplace. But if you cannot exercise because you're at your workplace, this program is equally being streamed live on our Facebook page. During your spare time or when you knock off, you can go to this particular segment and follow along with us and exercise, and then you go to bed. Trust me, you will have good dreams, sweet dreams. It is important to exercise, so let us remember to always do that. So we are going to go directly into our morning boost to see what Chores Fitness has for us this morning.
Hello guys, it's your boy Harrison, aka the Fitness Puppy, here at Chores Fitness Gym. So guys, today I'm going to show you this type I've invented. I haven't yet come up with a name, but I'm going to show you. It's very effective. It's the chaos. So it's the chaos using the plate. It's the one I'm going to show you today. Okay. So this type of exercise, I'm gonna face this side, then I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1 and 2. Okay. So this type of curls, I would like to tell you where it works on. So this type of curls works on this part here. You've seen this part. So you don't need to go the tricep and the bicep and the tricep only. You just need to go the whole arm should give definition. So this is the plate would help you to come up with this type of muscle here, really come up with this muscle. So what you need to do is, so there are other plates which don't have the wall here where you can put your grip. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. Okay, so the key point of this type of exercise, once it's reached here, you need to squeeze, but the effect you're going to feel it the bicep here, but the results will come out from this side. This is how it works. So for those who don't have the plates which don't have the wall here, so you can use this type of plate. See, it doesn't have any wall. So just carry it like this. Then you squeeze it. When you just reach here, you squeeze. Again, you squeeze. You squeeze. This type of exercise really gonna help you pump this type of muscle here. You definitely want to come up with a definition, good looking body, not just a body, a bulking type of body, but a cutting one. You've been with me, guys, Harrison, aka the Fitness Puppy, here on Morning Boost. Remember, you are watching Camnet TV, not any other channel. Bye bye.
You have it. That was Chalk's Fitness located in Kabulonga, where we were doing our morning boost. I hope you have exercised along with us. Exercising is very important for your health because we need you to be in good shape for you to contribute positively to the development of this country. Everyone in Zambia matters. That's why we care for you and ensure that this morning we bring you this fitness section. We just don't end there. We also go into the doctor's corner to talk about different illnesses that we live with on a daily basis. So the doctor come in studio and explain some of the unexplained questions or some of the questions that you have with regards to certain illnesses. So we are going to dive into the doctor's corner this morning to see what is it that the doctor has for us. Let's get to hear what the doctor has to say.
Hi, good morning and welcome to the Health Corner here on the Breakfast Show. I am Dr. Nakubiana Mfaya. So this week we have been talking about rickets, and it's a rare condition that affects children from as low as 3 months all the way up to adolescent age. And we say that rickets is a condition where there is softening and weakening of the bones, and this is due to deficiency in calcium. So in vitamin D, sorry. So vitamin D deficiency is what causes rickets. And so our bodies need vitamin D to be able to absorb calcium and phosphate from our intestines. And if there isn't enough vitamin D, then our bodies will not be able to absorb that calcium, and so leading to a softening of the bones because our bones are made up of calcium. So what are some of the causes? We talked about the causes of rickets, and we say that it's because of a lack of vitamin D, and this can come as a result of the child not being exposed to the sun, and also not having or eating foods that are high in vitamin D. And we also say that there are some genetic conditions that a child can inherit that can predispose them to having rickets. And if there are any malabsorption conditions where the body is not able to absorb nutrients very well, such as inflammatory bowel disease, then they can also develop rickets. So we also talked about some of the symptoms of rickets, and we say that a child who has rickets will have bone deformities, and they will also have delayed growth. And so you'll be able to see the bone deformities, and when you compare that child to other children of the same age, you would find that they have a delayed growth and they will not be growing at the same rate as the other children. Then they might also have muscle weakness, and they might also have seizures, and these can happen in some children. And then we also talked about the diagnosis and treatment. We say that it can be diagnosed through the hospital. There's some tests that can be done to be able to check how the body is functioning and how the body is absorbing calcium. Then we can also treat rickets, and we give vitamin D to patients who have vitamin D deficiency and who don't have enough vitamin D. So today we'll talk about some of the complications and some of the preventive measures. I'm sure from the conversation or from the talks that we've been having here, you are able to pick what are some of the complications and what are some of the preventive measures. So the complications include delayed growth. If the child is having this condition called rickets, they will have delayed growth, and so they will not grow at the same rate. They would have stunted growth. Most of the times they are usually short. They are short in stature because of the delayed growth, and the bones are not growing properly. Then the other complication is that they might have seizures, and so they might develop seizures because of not having enough calcium in the body. Then what are some of the preventive measures? How can you prevent your child from getting rickets? Before I talk about the preventive measures, the other complication is the bone deformities. They might have bone deformities and also dental deformities, where the child is not having a good dental formula because of not having enough calcium that can help the teeth to grow. And the bones also will be deformed because of not having enough calcium. So how can you prevent rickets at home? You need to be able to expose your child to the sun. That's number one. Make sure your child is receiving enough sun exposure every day. At least 20 minutes a day is good enough sun exposure for the child to be able to synthesize or make vitamin D, because that's the only way that our bodies can make vitamin D. Then the other thing is that you need to be able to give a child foods that are high in vitamin D, and these foods include fish, milk, and eggs. These are high in vitamin D. Then there are other foods as well that we usually buy from the stores that are fortified. So these are fortified foods. They are made with extra vitamin D in them, and so these are foods like cereals. There are certain cereals that have vitamin D, and there are certain breads as well. They make some breads that are fortified with vitamin D, and also some juices, especially orange juices that are fortified with vitamin D. And so you can also check to see if the cereal that you're giving your child has vitamin D, because it's important that your child gets vitamin D. So if a child is found to lack vitamin D, especially if they are born from a mother who has already this deficiency, then the child can be given supplements of vitamin D through the hospital, of course, and they can be given some medications that have vitamin D to be able to supplement the vitamin D. So this is how you can prevent rickets. These are some of the ways that you can use to prevent rickets: sun exposure and also diet. Something that we can all do simply in our homes and prevent ourselves or our children from getting rickets. So I do hope you have learned something today. I do hope you learned about rickets this week. And if you haven't been able to watch some of the other days that we were talking about rickets, then you can check out my YouTube channel to see what we talked about from Monday. And the YouTube channel is Dr. Nakubiana Mfaya, and you'll be able to find these videos and even so many other videos that we have been sharing here on The Breakfast Show. And you can learn and also share with your friends as well, and let them subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching, and I will see you again next time. Make sure you stay healthy and prevent yourself from getting diseases.
there you have it. That was Dr. Mubiana Mufaya, and she was talking about the prevention, or rather complication and prevention of rickets. I know this particular topic is a topic that most of us have not understood, but growing up, I remember, okay, pardon me for saying this, sometimes we would actually laugh at people who have seen this kind of condition, and we would tell them, because their legs are bending and they are having all those kind of complications. And of course, for a lot of parents who've got kids with such a condition, it's very difficult because you don't understand what is happening with your child. But this program, of course, gives you an opportunity to learn more about this condition, so that even when you have a child, you start noticing some of the signs and symptoms that lead to that. You are able to know how is it that you can react. Remember, the doctor there did mention the fact that vitamin D is very important to prevent rickets, and she said sometimes it's good to expose the child to the sun every day of about 20 minutes. You know, that morning sun, it's very important just to let the child out and have that sunburst. It's very sunburst is one thing that helps us have vitamin D in our body and of course on our skin. Very important. I know Zambia has been blessed with different climate seasons as opposed to our colleagues in other parts of the country where they rarely see the sun. But for us, I think God knew to say, you know, sometimes my children will not afford those meals that would give them vitamin D. That's why we have sun almost throughout the year. Being it in June, sometimes we do experience sunlight and stuff like that. So yeah, we hope you have learned one or two things on the complications and prevention of rickets. So this morning again, we are going to also see how is it that our local currency is performing against other major convertibles. That is the money market today as of Friday, 3rd March 2023. I know Kwacha has been a topic of discussion. A lot of articles I've been reading on Facebook where people are writing about this particular topic, and why is it that despite the central bank coming in to intervene by raising the statutory reserve ratio by 2.5%, and of course the policy rate was increased by 0.50, is it 0.25%? Yes, 0.25 basis point. We've not seen the kwacha appreciate, and we've seen it continue to depreciate. That has been a topic of discussion. So my floor manager, of course, we have the money market this morning. The Zambian kwacha against the Great British Pound is buying at 23 kwacha 16 ngwe, pardon me, and selling at 24 kwacha 07 ngwe. The Zambian kwacha against the United States dollar is buying at 19 kwacha 78 ngwe and selling at 20 kwacha 17 ngwe. The Zambian kwacha against the euro is buying at 20 kwacha 95 ngwe and selling at 21 kwacha 37 ngwe. The Zambian kwacha against the South African rand is buying at 1 kwacha 08 ngwe and selling at 1 kwacha 10 ngwe. That is our money market this morning. Despite the interventions made by the central bank, the local currency is not appreciated. You know, sometimes interventions made by the bank to cater for the escalating depreciation of the local currency will not sometimes necessarily lead to the currency appreciating, but stabilize. So if you've seen over the past week since those interventions were made, kwacha has been trending around 19% to 20%, just around this particular time. So sometimes if those interventions were not made, sometimes you realize that the currency will escalate. By now, we could have been talking about maybe 23 kwacha to a $1. But these interventions sometimes are just meant to cushion the rate at which the kwacha is depreciating. Not necessarily that it is meant to appreciate the kwacha against other major currencies, because there are a lot of economic fundamentals that come into play. So I've seen a lot of articles have been written on Facebook and different platforms regarding this particular topic. But you know, sometimes I always say some of the solutions to the challenges that a country is faced with lies in you, the viewer, watching this program. And you might not know by maybe writing that contribution, sending us a message, or calling to make your submissions. might just be a solution that the country needs to the current economic challenges. So we give you an opportunity on this platform for you to call, make those contributions, make those submissions. So we've seen our local currency is not doing as we expect as a country. What is it that we need to do? You, the viewer watching that's there in the comfort of your home or on your gadget, on your platform, you're traveling, you're in your office or wherever you are, you might just actually be the solution to the current economic challenges that Zambia is faced with. So as I allow my guests to settle, we are going to directly dive into our conversation this morning before we can zoom into the headline. We will zoom into the headline later on in the program, according to some of the stories that made headline in our news yesterday. But for now, we are going to actually allow our guests to come on set so that we can go to discuss today's topic of discussion. So we are going to take a short breather to allow our guests to settle. So don't go away. Stay tuned to Camnet TV. Stay tuned to your phone. Stay close to your phone so that you can call us, make those submissions and contributions with regards to today's topic of discussion. So as we allow our guests to settle in, let's go on a short break. Okay, it looks as though my manager there is not ready for that commercial break. So let's, today's topic of discussion this morning, we are discussing the launch of When Destiny Calls by, When Destiny Calls, and this is Princess Inonge Mutukwa winner. There is a book actually that will be launched about Zambia's first female vice president. You know, it is not easy. For the time Zambia got independent, we had over 50 years and we had never had a female vice president. Our first female vice president fought her way to that position. What an honor it is, and what a woman. There's some of the women that inspire me personally to do a lot of great things because they've defied all odds to become who they have become and to leave a legacy that they have left behind. Imagine more than 50 years, no female vice president, and she emerged victorious to become Zambia's first female vice president. Even when the world says women cannot lead, she said, women have to lead. And she just did that by becoming the first female vice president of the country. So Princess Inonge Mutukwa winner. When we say princess, why are we calling her a princess? This is what we will be learning this morning more, and about the book launch. What does it talk about and how will it inspire that girl in school aspiring to one day become a leader? I know a lot of people, a lot of young people. I think this week I attended a debate that was done by, is it Kamwala Secondary School and Hurricane, where they were debating on certain topic of discussion. Among them, there was the issue of mental health that was raised. And one thing I learned about the whole interaction I had with the girls is that they are aspiring one day to become leaders, such as ministers. You know, that's a good dream, but you can go even further to dream of becoming the first, or rather of becoming a vice president of this country, because Madam Winner has already defied all odds to become the first female vice president. So we are going to go on a short break. I hope this time my manager, we are ready as we allow our guests to settle and come in studio. So let's go on a short break.
For immediate coverage of any breaking or latest news in Zambia and around the world on Camnet Television, call the numbers on your screen. Camnet Television, bringing to your screens fair news, impartial news, credible and reliable news all the time. Get the whole truth on Camnet World News. Camnet Television, not just another channel.
Water is life. Each drop counts and each must be cherished. Our tried and tested product meets all international standards. With our smart drip technology, we aim to deliver precision irrigation designed to reduce blockage and wastage, ensuring a high yield. RenGlow, your smart irrigation partner.
Thank you so much for still staying tuned to Camnet TV. Pardon me. Remember, Camnet TV is not just another channel. When we say not just another channel, we mean not just another channel, because we bring you a lot of important topics of discussion and we don't ignore anything that is of great importance to the country. This morning, we are discussing the launch of When Destiny Calls, Princess Inonge Mutukwa Winner, a woman who defied all odds to become the first female vice president of Zambia. This should be an inspiration to a lot of women out there to equally leave a legacy behind by becoming maybe the first president of the Republic of Zambia. If Madam Winner did it by becoming the first female vice president, you watching me today can be also next in line to become Zambia's president at a particular time. So this book launch, when is it and what do we expect? In studio this morning, I am joined by Dr. Auxilia Ponga, who is the former Ministry of Gender Permanent Secretary, and of course she sits on a committee that is in charge of the When Destiny Calls. So this morning, I am joined by Doc. Doc, good morning.
Morning, thank you.
It's wonderful to host you in studio this morning.
Thank you.
I know we are hosting you for the first time, and we are looking forward to having a wonderful discussion this morning regarding the launch of When Destiny Calls. So just to dive, before we dive maybe perhaps into our conversation, for those who are watching you for the first time on Camnet TV, they would like to know more about you. Who is Dr. Auxilia Ponga?
So I am a retired civil servant, but maybe I should say international civil servant. I worked for the Ministry of Gender when it was a division at Cabinet Office. That's many years ago. Then I went to the UK to work at the Commonwealth Secretariat in London.
Wow.
As the gender advisor on public sector and governance. Then I worked for 7 years in South Africa with UNDP as regional advisor for gender. No, we called ourselves gender practice leaders for Eastern and Southern Africa. Then I worked as UN Women multi-country representative because I covered Namibia, South Africa, Lesotho, Swaziland, and Botswana. And then I came back home, summoned by then His Excellency, Mr. Edgar Chagwalungu, to come and be the permanent secretary in the then newly created Ministry of National Development and Planning. And then from there, I went back to Ministry of Gender, where I had worked before I left the country, and then went to Ministry of Tourism. That's where I was relieved of my duties. So that's me practically.
What a rich CV. Right now, as you're talking, I'm developing goosebumps because what a rich CV we have. It's actually an honor for me to interview someone like you on the program this morning, because looking at the things that you've gone through, looking at the institutions that you've worked for, it's not just here in Zambia. She didn't just end up being a permanent secretary here in Zambia. She's actually worked for the Commonwealth. She's worked for other institutions outside the country. Such an honor this morning to actually interview you, Dr. Ponga. And I look forward to having a wonderful discussion as we move further, looking at the topic that we are discussing this morning. So looking at When Destiny Calls, are you part of the people who wrote this book?
No, I'm not. I'm part of the organizing committee for the launch, but the authors are 3 lecturers, academicians at the University of Kwame Nkrumah in Kabwe. So they interviewed her Honor on a number of occasions, and based on the interviews they had with her and their own research, they came up with a book. So the book does have some biography of who the first female vice president is, in terms of where she hails from, where she went to school, and also in terms of her achievements, both in civil society organizations. As you know, she worked for the YWCA for many years, so that's captured in the book. She was the chairperson of NGOCC, and that is also captured. But what strikes me in the book is also the challenge that a number of women face in terms of progressing in their careers. She could not finish her degree because at that time, in social work, because at that time she was a wife and a mother. And so sometimes the duties of a home prevent a number of women to proceed with their career and develop. And so for me, I think that when Destiny calls about Princess Inonge Mutukwawina is a book that every girl should read. Because what she has done, like you said in your introductions, makes every Zambian girl think, if she could do it, I could. And I want to agree with you. Maybe it's time we begin looking at a female president, because we've gotten so far. She's broken the ceiling, the glass ceiling for us at the level of vice president. So as we look at her and the fact that she went to school, in the book it's captured, I think it's 7 kilometers from her home. She used to walk to school that length of a distance. And for many girls growing up today, they should draw encouragement from that by the fact that many of these young girls face challenges. She has dedicated her life to gender equality, and you find a lot of that coming through in the book. So really an inspiration for young girls, an inspiration for women of Zambia, and a celebration. I think that Zambia has managed, even though it took us more than 50 years.
Let's just, I know I was bringing up this question, but as you are talking, you keep diving into some of the things I wanted to find out. When we hear about Madam, or rather Princess, because there is also this aspect of princesship that is coming on our title, Princess Inonge Mutukwawina. Who is she really? Maybe we can try to understand where is the princesship coming from, and who is Madam Princess, pardon me, Inonge Mutukwawina. Just a little bit background of who she is. I know this has been captured in the book, and you wouldn't want to preempt everything that is in there, but let's just get a little bit of understanding so that even when people realize that we've done this book, they understand where we are coming from and the impact that this has on gender equality, and of course on a lot of young girls out there.
Yes, so she's a princess because she comes from the royal family. And if I'm not mistaken, the current, the title has escaped me. The current king is a cousin of hers.
Wow.
So she hails from the royal family. And in her line is where you choose the kings from for the Lozi, for the Barotse palace. So that's why she's called princess. It's not a title, self-given. It is a title because she comes from the royal family. Yeah. So I also know that among the Lozis, I think there are 2 that are specifically reserved for women in the setup of the kingdom. So you have the Indunas, and 2 of the Indunas are female, and it can only be inherited by women. So I think that one of the things that needs to be understood is also that she's coming from a background where being in leadership is not foreign to her. And as a person that probably worked with her, you could see a lot of dignity, royalty, and a certain respectability that accompanied everything that she did. And sometimes I wonder, is that because of her royal background? So that comes through. If you engage with her, you would see that dignity that I'm talking about. And also, I want to assume that the calmness around her, for those of us who worked with her, you got to know when she was upset. But for a lot of people who may be talking to her for the first time, or probably engaging with her for the first time, and may not actually tell. So there's a calmness, a dignity, and a respectability about her that I think comes from the fact that she comes from the royal family. That's my assumption, but I think those of you who want to know more details around that need to buy the book and delve into it and understand that for yourselves.
Some people might argue that Princess Winner achieved some of the things she did due to a royal background. You know, there are people who would argue to say, if I was given even such a privilege as well, I would achieve exactly what she achieved. So some of the people would argue to say, no, she was where she was because of a royal background. Do you think that's the case?
If that was the case, she wouldn't be walking 7 kilometers to school. Because if you're given everything in life, then you don't have to work for it. Then maybe as princess, people should have been carrying her to school, but she walked. And so she led a simple life of fetching water, of walking to school, of doing household chores, just like any other girl. And that's why I'm saying that I think that for many of our young girls today, this should be an inspiration. Because what draws us backwards are the challenges we face in life. So if I am walking 7 kilometers to school, and I think this is too much, and for those of us who are in the gender equality area and empowerment of women, we do talk to government about reducing the distance that girls have to walk to school, including boys, but more so for the girls because of the challenges they face on the way. So this is a rural area, and you have a young girl walking 7 kilometers. For me, that is determination, but also maybe speaks to the type of family she's coming from. Many of us will get discouraged and says, I'm not going to let my daughter walk 7 kilometers to school, and stop them because of the challenges they face on the road. But she got encouragement and finished her primary education, secondary education, and as I said, started on her degree.
I know most of the things she was achieving while she was married. I think I read some of the reviews about the book and how she got married to Mr. Winner, of course, and the fact that she did get married at a tender age, but that did not limit her from going to school, finishing her education, and becoming who she was, dived into issues to do with gender fighting for the well-being of women, and of course seeing an increase in the participation of women in this political space. Let's talk about a little bit about a marriage life and how she managed to balance with the career that she achieved for herself.
So for me, before I even go into that, I think a challenge, not just to the women, but to the men, to be supportive. So if you recognize that your woman or your wife has the capacity to become a teacher, a social worker, to acquire a diploma, a degree, are the men there to support this kind of a woman who is destined, as the book says, to become someone great? And education does play a role. So yes, married at a tender age, had children, and yet managed to actually get a diploma in social work. And as I said earlier, was working on her degree. That, for many women, is a big challenge, because here you are, coupling your career life with making a home and taking care of children. And I think that she didn't shy away from the fact that, yes, I have a home, yes, I have children to raise, and indeed, I have a husband who is a minister, but there's also personal growth, personal development, personal fulfillment, and I think that's what needs to drive a lot of us. In her calm way, she recognized that and the importance of actually saying, I am married, but there's a path, a calling, a destiny set out for me. And she was able to listen to that and follow through. So again, an encouragement for a lot of young women, career women, working today. I hope they take a leaf from that. And I hope that the men are listening to be supportive to their wives.
Of course, they are listening. I'm sure they are listening. A very important submission there when you say we need men to be an inspiration, or men to be pushing their women to become what they want to become. I know a lot of women there who are watching me would agree to say, when a woman begins to make it, or the name of a woman begins to be mentioned, there is this bit of intimidation that comes along, and the man will tell you, no, you can't continue doing this, because people think when you get there, you become unsubmissive, for lack of a better word, because that's what we are taught in the African tradition. So when we talk about the book launch now, let's talk about the book launch. When is it, and where will it be, and what are the expectations?
Yeah, the book launch is today at Pamosi Hotel from 15 to 17 hours. We're starting sharply at 15, so that means people need to come in early, be seated by 14:30. And we are dealing with a woman that took timekeeping very seriously. So if you worked under her and the meeting was set for 7, she would be there 5 to sometimes 10 to 7. So I would like for many of us as Zambians who are not very good at keeping time to emulate her, at least for this day, to honor her, so that we start promptly at 15 hours. So it will be at Pamosi Hotel. The keynote speaker is the current Vice President, Honorable W.K. Mutalina Lumango. She's going to give the keynote address. And we've got also a guest speaker who will help with the launch of the book, because the Vice President has another commitment and would have to leave early. So the Bishop Sichilima will be the one helping with being the guest of honor and launching the book. So what to expect? A lot of people have shown interest, and we're saying, come on, come on. But I'm sure at a certain stage we'll have to close the doors. But if you are wanting to participate, just know that there's a 350 kwacha to pay to participate, but you also get a copy of the book. So if you're interested, please make your way to Pamosi this afternoon and have the opportunity to participate in this launch of the book. As I said, we are doing it in the backdrop of International Women's Week. And for us, those of us from the women's movement who have worked on gender equality and empowerment of women, it is a time not just to launch the book, but to celebrate her life and to look at a role model on whose shoulders we can all climb and say, if she's gotten here, I can too, and even go beyond. Yeah, so that's what we'll have this afternoon.
So for those who are not in Lusaka, is there a provision where they can participate, or it will just be strictly for those who are in the province?
Unfortunately, for those who are in the province, but I am looking at the overwhelming response we've gotten, including questions and phone calls from people in the diaspora. So like you are intimating, we need to look at where else do we go from here in terms of the provinces, especially maybe Western Province, so that, you know, the people there can have the opportunity to look at the book. And again, the challenge we get, there are very few books in Zambia. So already we're thinking, how do we challenge people who are good at the different 7 official languages in Zambia to translate the book and make sure it's available, because then we can inspire the rural girl who may not be very conversant with English, but can read it in the local language. So there are those thoughts, but there are thoughts also with the next launch that we try and see how we can even use current technology and have people join from wherever they are. So those are plans, and I think that it would be important to get as many people as possible participating. This is our first female vice president. As Zambia, that is a cause for celebration.
I think a lot of people, when they hear these words, I think they underestimate the importance that this places on us as a nation, having the first female vice president after almost, I don't know, about 50 years of the country's independence. We had never had a female vice president, and then boom, she broke through and ensured that she became the first female vice president. I know we will soon be celebrating the Gender Week. You've spoken about that fact. In Zambia, do you think we have women have been given enough space for them to break through and join a lot of big positions, or even in the area of politics and in other areas when it comes to issues of gender?
I don't think so, because for me what speaks to that is the numbers that we have. So as a country, we've signed to the SADC protocol, that's Southern African Development Community. We've signed on to the AU protocol on gender equality, the Solemn Declaration on Gender. We've signed on to the UN instruments on equality, CEDAW, the Convention on the Elimination of all forms of discrimination against women. So as a country, we have signed on to all those, but very little of that has translated into our laws. So that makes a real challenge in terms of the legal framework that backs gender equality in the country. And we need to do a lot more around that. For countries that have achieved numbers of women in politics, they either have what they call affirmative action, so a decision by a country to actually say 30% of all places in parliament will be reserved for women. So in those constituencies, it's only women contesting against other women. That kind of a provision does allow for an increase in the number of women that then can go into positions of leadership and decision-making in politics, particularly in parliament. Other countries like South Africa will have what we call a PR. So a party like the ANC will say, we'll have a zebra representation. If number 1 is male, number 2 is female, number 3 male, number 4. So they keep changing like that to make sure that they get an equal number of women and an equal number of men going to stand. Here, it's first past the post, which makes it almost impossible for women to actually contest and become members of parliament. I hope that there will be changes to the way we have made this representation of people in parliament a money issue. So for most women, they will not have the amount of money required to go into politics. Having had an attempt at that myself, I realized, one, you need to visit the constituency where you want to stand, do some kind of research and understand what the issues are, and no one pays for those trips. Secondly, you do need to actually acquaint yourself with the people. That means visiting them in their wards, getting to know them. It is so challenging for women because almost every visit you make, you are expected to leave an envelope for the people that you are visiting who are either in charge of the ward, at the ward level or constituency level, or even district level. So you are seen as someone who has a lot of money, and I think that it takes away from why people want to come into politics or why they want to participate in leadership. I strongly believe that because of that, we have a lot of able women who never make it into politics because of the amount of money that is required during the process of becoming a member of parliament. That makes us lose qualified women, exposed women, women who have a passion to see the country develop. And all they're interested in is improve the lives of the people they want to serve. But it's all about money and how much. In fact, it is so sad that even when you go into these rural or urban areas, the moment you aspire to become a member of parliament, they see you and all they ask for is money. And I want that to change. For us who want to go into leadership, we need to begin to have that conversation with our people. That's one. Secondly, there's been a lot of violence around women who want to stand as members of parliament, as presidents of parties, the way they are treated, the way the media portrays them. For many who want to call themselves decent women, they don't want their personal, private life drawn into the public and in such a demeaning way. So many women will say, no, I'd keep my dignity and stay away. And that's why I think that for people like Princess Inonge Mutukwawina, who has set an example of remaining a dignified woman in the space, must give a lot of us encouragement who would want to stay away, because I don't want to be screaming at people, calling them names, insulting one another. That's not my purpose for going into politics. So that example she has given must ring right for many more women who will say there is a possibility to go into that space and remain dignified. So the challenges are there. Then when we talk about our country saying you must have a grade 12 certificate before you can contest any political position, good. It's going to make a lot of our women, where possible, go back and get that certificate. But there should have been a preparation for the women. Some who wanted to stand that year could not, because the decision was abrupt. Yes, it's good to be educated. And sometimes I want to agree with people who think that going to school is not wisdom. Going to school does not even give you leadership sometimes. So how do we broaden the base from which we pick our leaders? What else other than a grade 12 certificate? People go to school to become teachers. Do we have our politicians trained in leadership? Do they understand what it means to lead people? Do we even look at the quality of the person that we're putting in charge? So I think for me there are a lot more questions. The reason women must go into that space. When I worked with the SADC Parliamentary Forum, we realized that a lot of women stay away because of the kind of qualifications that we put forward. And we would often ask women in a conference, how many of you want to be presidents? How many of you want to be ministers? How many of you want to be members of parliament? No hand would go up. We would change that and suddenly say, all right, this country, ZEP, looking for a person that can juggle many chores, responsibilities at one time. They're looking for somebody who can stretch the little finances they have at the household level from beginning of the month to the end of the month. They're looking for someone with a sixth sense that will tell them there's a problem coming here and already put in place things that will prevent that turmoil. And then you see a lot of hands up going up. And we tell the women, the same qualities you have to run a home, the same qualities you have in bringing peace in your community, the same qualities you have that make you give of yourself to make sure that the orphans in your community are taken care of, are the leadership qualities we're looking for in our leaders. But no one tells that story. So when we go out there, it is very important to have a role model like Madame Inonge Mutukwawina, the princess, to actually look up to and say that it is possible.
I feel motivated.
Very good. That's the idea.
I feel motivated, but I also like the part where you've mentioned that most of the time when you want to become a politician, you aspire. The very moment you say, I want to become a member of parliament, people look at you as an ATM where they need to draw resources. And this reminds me of one person, I'm not going to mention a name, but she was aspiring to become an MP in the previous elections. And if you look at a budget went up to about 1.6 million kwacha. That's what she needed to have spent on that particular time. And of course, she did spend some of those resources. Unfortunately, she couldn't make it on the ballot. That's just an example. And when I sit, I look at all those resources. For someone to actually make 1.6 million kwacha, it would take you quite a lot of time. So these were someone's investment over a particular time, but it's about who has the most money. And of course, the person who had the most money than what she had got that space, which she was, of course, trying to get.
And it shouldn't be. And I think that for me, The greatest challenge we have as a people at the moment is to change that mentality.
So that's where I was coming from. Is it that we have a wrong mindset in Zambia in the way we zoom politics?
Yes, and I think our leaders who have been in politics from a certain period, I won't mention names and I won't mention times, because I'd like to generalize this. Our leaders must take responsibility. And anyone at the moment who is in leadership must take a role to educate our people differently. So I told you I gave a chance at this. And when I arrived, of course I spent money, and I'm not going to say how much, but it was quite a lot for me by my standards. But every time somebody came to me, and you see, our people have also learned to call you honorable, even before you become a member of parliament. And they'll be asking for money for salt. Up to now, I still get phone calls. Oh, I have a funeral. Is the member of parliament's responsibility to bury people, to send kids to school? No. First and foremost, their responsibility is to make laws. So they need to begin to educate people. And I think all of us as Zambians have a role to play. One is our people need to be challenged. So for me, one of the things I would be saying is, Madam Wakamchele, you know, can I have money for salt? And I'm saying, if I give you today, I don't live here. Where will you get money for salt? So let's sit down and have a conversation. What do you have in your power to ensure you have salt every day? So that kind of conversation, maybe because we are in a hurry, we just want to talk, we just don't want to talk to people and challenge them, we just dish out money. I think that has killed our society. It has killed our morals. It has killed the desire to become who we want to be as a people. Because you make people dependent on you. And when you're not there, and for most members of parliament, I remember going around and people saying, even if we were choose you today, tomorrow you stop coming to us. And I said, you know why they stop? Because you place so much burden on them. Every time they are receiving a phone call from you, it is, please send me money. Really, I told them, I'm going to tell you lies if I say that I'll look after all your needs. So what we need to do is all of us here sit down together and say, what projects can we have that can generate income here? How do we ourselves as leaders at party level, at community level, create situations where we create jobs, income for our people? Otherwise, if we make them dependent on us, we get scared of going back there because we promise them things we're not able to fulfill. I have worked in government, so I know what an MP salary is. There's no way an MP salary will look after a constituency. And for me, that is partly what drives our people into corruption. You've made promises, you need to fulfill, you want a second term, and you need to continue giving money. Who got developed by receiving money, sitting idle and receiving money all your life? So the challenge must be, how can we work with our people to develop our areas, yes, instill in them a desire to begin to generate things for themselves. Because I think that it is wrong for a family man or a family woman to depend on someone else for the things that they need in their home. I think that is where we've gone wrong. And I think that Zambia, Africa in general, maybe let me speak about Zambia, we have such a high dependency syndrome. And we cannot develop with that. And I think that for our leaders, they need to speak to these issues. You can call investors, and I'm glad we're calling them in, but what's the moral fiber of the people that we're bringing investors to? They'll be discouraged, they'll be frustrated. We have a lot of people who have come from outside, are running farms. As soon as their pigs are ready, their chickens are ready, 3/4 disappear. Until we address who we are as a people and who we want to be, we can have a grandiose plan of economic growth. But on what basis? When we have no moral fiber. We steal from ourselves. As a believer, I actually tell people, you are saying to God, I'm not worthy of your gifts. I'm not worthy to have a job that will give me what I want. Because I speak to my helpers in my home. If you can steal a toilet paper, what are you saying? You steal sugar. We have become such a nation of thieves, I'm sorry to say, from the low level. And until we address that, we focus our eyes on politicians, government workers, what's happening in our homes, and who is speaking to this. And so for me, taking away from the book, when you read it, you realize that integrity and the ethics that one carries herself with, the way Madam Inongewina did, comes from the home. And we're not addressing that enough where I am concerned.
I would agree with you on that, and it has just reminded me of two incidences that I've come in contact with. When you've said sometimes investors would come in the country and immediately they are done with their project, they move away and look for other places to take their investment. This reminds me of Dangote. I remember when he was just starting up his plant on the Copper Belt, there was a lot of challenges that were encountered. Remember, there was the aspect of people being displaced, but they were compensated. And they were not satisfied with the compensations that they were given. Despite having been built houses for, being given some money, they were not satisfied. They kept on going back and raiding the properties that were being built. But look at the development that this has brought in the country, the employment that it has created, the change it has brought to the people around. But there was a lot of resistance by members of the community. I remember by then when I was doing my interns, I even covered some of the court issues that the community was incurring because a mob justice went to disrupt whatever was happening, and some people were arrested, and so they were facing court. And I was part of those who went with the judges to the court to just, you know, that scenario where they have to reconstruct the scene of what happened. And in my heart, I was telling myself, but these people have been given houses, they've been compensated, but they're still going back to frustrate the effort that this investor is trying to put across, rather than looking at, when we put up this, we can get jobs and our lives can be better. Because in that area, basically, they were doing nothing apart from the little farming that was there. But people have now been given jobs there, and there was resistance. Then the other incident that happened just a week ago, may the soul of the student rest in peace, where someone was attacked by a gang just because they wanted to steal, maybe it was just a phone or just a little change he had, and the life had to be lost. 6 men had to stab a student because they wanted to steal. So this is the mentality that we have of always wanting to make fast things rather than work for them. And this has led us to where we are as a country. And of course, a lot of women failing to take up even political space because there's this, a lot of fighting, infighting. And trust me, I equally wouldn't want to go to such an environment, because I'm thinking of, if I died, who will look after my kids? And these are the thoughts that comes to the mind of most women wanting to take up leadership positions. So maybe as we come to the dying end of this interview, what would be your concluding remarks about the book launch, and of course about most of the girls watching us this program, most of the women and most of the men watching this program? What is the words that you would like to leave them with?
So the book launch is a must for those that are in Lusaka. As I said, pay 350 kwacha and come. And if we get an overwhelming response, I think as organizing committee, we can look at several other options of how we go about making sure as many people get a hold of a book of our first female vice president. First. And as you said, in 50 years, that's an achievement. And I think I want to give credit to His Excellency, our former president, for setting that trend. And I also want to thank the current president for making our current vice president. So we have two. First, we waited for 50 years, and now within a space of 10 years, we have two. And I hope that that trend continues. And that's why we need the Constitution, so that it is very clear that if the president is male, the vice should be female. Then we know. And if the president is female, the vice shall be male. Have that enshrined somewhere for all political parties that come into government to continue with. Because it's very important that the perspective of more than 52% of your population is represented, and ably not satisfied with 10, or 15 members of parliament when your population is saying you're more than 52% female. So our experiences as women and men are different, and we bring different aspects, experiences, and expertise to the table. And I think it's very important to realize that development will not be equitable if only one gender is always in charge, making decisions on behalf of everybody else. So for the girls that are listening, please get to read the book. And if you can't, get someone to summarize it. And I look forward to having even sponsors from the education sector, from communities, to want to translate the book into local languages so that many more girls can be inspired. I think, speaking for myself and a lot of us as women, we realize the help that we have received from other women and men as well. We are where we are because somebody somewhere helped us. And I think that if Madam Inonge Wina were to be remembered, it would be for her passion for development of this country. I worked with her in the ministry when it was just newly created. And you could see her concern for where Zambia could be and what it should be. She has a passion for women, and especially with regards to maternal health of women. She has a passion for food security. And she's one who would tell us, this whole needs to be put away if agriculture is to become a mainstay for this country. Agriculture that is going to go into the industrialization phase. So here is a woman that we need to celebrate because she has helped us break the glass ceiling. She is a role model. I was saying to someone yesterday, many more young girls are being called Inonge because of what she has achieved and that the role model that she is. For those of us who feel she could have done more, I want to say she has laid the foundation. And our duty and responsibility is to build on the fact that now we have a foundation.
Thank you so much for joining us on set. I hope your political career or aspirations have not died. We would want to see you in Parliament next time and to have minds like you sit on the decision-making table. I think Zambia could be a better place for us if we had minds like you sit on the decision-making table, because I can see the passion of wanting to do things differently in the country. And I know those watching me on the program this morning would actually agree with me. I know you do agree with me. So thank you so much, Dr. Auxilia Ponga. In case you're just tuning in, she is the former permanent secretary in the Ministry of Gender. If you joined me earlier when we were starting the program, she had quite a rich CV, a lot of positions she has held both outside the country and in Zambia. And we need women like her and many more to join our political space and, of course, sit on the decision-making table. You might not know, perhaps you are the solution to the current challenges that the country is faced with. I always emphasize when I come on the program that by you calling, making those submissions and contributions, you might just be a key that we've been looking for to unlocking the economic challenges that we need. So never stop speaking when it comes to speaking for the welfare of many Zambian people. So I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
And I hope you continue with your political aspirations. I know a lot of people who've watched this program would also want to back you up to ensure that we see you get there. Personally, I would want to one day see you hold that political position. So if you felt of giving up, I've come to encourage you. Yes, of course. So this is why we have to allow our guests, of course, to leave. It has been a wonderful discussion, and see you at the launch of the When Destiny Calls book, of course, dedicated to Princess Inonge Mutokwa Wina. It is today at 15 and at what's the venue?
Pamosi
at
Hotel.
Pamosi Hotel.
Pamosi.
Yes, of course. So let's see you there. And if you were not thinking of going, you have a reason after listening to this interview to want to attend the book launch. If you cannot attend the launch, at least get yourself a copy of the book and let's get to it. Personally, I will be the first to go and get myself a copy of that book because I feel motivated and inspired. But this is where we have to allow Dr. Ponga to leave. So my director, I think we are going to take a short breather to allow her to leave, even as we zoom into some of the stories that made headline before we close the program.
Water is life. Each drop counts and each must be cherished. Our tried and tested product meets all international standards. With our smart drip technology, we aim to deliver precision irrigation designed to reduce blockage and wastage, ensuring a high yield. Renglow, your smart irrigation partner.
For immediate coverage of any breaking or latest news in Zambia and around the world on Camnet television, call the numbers on your screen. Camnet television, bringing to your screens fair news, impartial news, credible and reliable news all the time. Get the whole truth on Camnet World News. Camnet television, not just another channel.
Lusaka continues to be the most populated place in Zambia, currently housing slightly over 3 million people, according to the Zambia Statistics Agency, ZAMSTATS. It is also one of the places with most land wrangles in Zambia, with some areas even having more than one title deed for one piece of land. The story of Vere Piri, a woman of Kalikiliki compound, is not an isolated one, as she explains that her house has been earmarked for demolition to pave way for the construction of a road, as it is sitting on a road reserve, despite her having title deeds. So nyumba like poikula mnatenga vonse na matitle deed vonse. The woman says the action will drive her and her two grandchildren further into poverty, as the house is inherited from her father and is the only property that she owns.
Nina family manje sawa sama ntandiza aba family banga so nizivutikira neka msakira vakudya ndine munango nimaenda kuchechi akuchechi ama ntandiza unga na mzukuru wanga na anasiatu wana tubiri mwana wanga na mwalimu.
Camnet News is currently awaiting response to a press query addressed to the Department of City Planning at the Lusaka City Council LCC, as well as to the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. The above scenario brings to reality the need for proper city planning in the capital city as well as other parts of Zambia to ensure that citizens build without fear of ever being left homeless. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
There you have it. That was one of the stories that made headline in our news yesterday, where a woman of Kalikiliki compound in Lusaka, Vere Piri, is living in fear of being left homeless after she was informed that her house is built on a road reserve and will need to be demolished to pave way for the construction of a road, despite her having title deeds. So that's a sad scenario there. And the question that we should be asking ourselves this morning is, what is a problem when it comes to land issues in Lusaka? What is it that the local authority, I don't know if it is the Lusaka City Council, if it is the Ministry of Lands, we don't even know where this issue is coming from. But we have a problem here. Imagine that woman who's worked so hard, imagine, I should think her entire life, to build herself that structure. She has title deeds to that, meaning she was given that land, and today she's being told the house has to be brought down because it has to save thousands of community members. I think this reminds me, you know, of the scripture in the Bible where a shepherd had to leave his 99 sheep to go for one that was lost. So in as much as we want to save 99 members of the community, that one particular life equally matters when it comes to the well-being of people we are all looked at as having been equal. So why should she be the one to suffer? So I don't know where the problem is in the country when it comes to land wrangles, and I don't know who's not doing what they're supposed to do. Is it the Lusaka City Council, or is it the Ministry of Lands, or is it the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development? Because they are also responsible for the development of most of these rural areas, and of course issues to do with local government. Remember, even the council sometimes operates under the Ministry of Local Development. Still talking about land wrangle issues, I know there has been a lot of flooding in Lusaka, and the question that I ask myself is, these areas that are flooding, who is it that was allocating them plots? Is it the Lusaka City Council? Is it the Ministry of Land? Or is it just the illegal land allocation that has been happening around, where cadres just go and give people land? And of course, a challenge to us who get land. When you're given that particular piece of land, do you even understand like the different seasons and patterns in your area and what happens? Because if you know that this particular area floods, and I think you cannot build a house in a month or 2 months, it takes you about maybe a year to 2 years to completely finish building your house. And in that particular period, you would have observed that this area actually floods. But we've gone ahead to build. You've seen this year, the place is flooding. You go and get a plot there and you build. And during the rain season, you are crying to government and saying, we need government to come in and intervene. So is it that it is us, the people, who have a problem? Or is it that it is the local authority? Or sometimes we people don't care. You're building a house in this wetland, and you know that you won't be living there, so you don't mind building a house there. You put it for rent to someone who's ignorant about the issue, and during the rain season, they leave, you wait for the rains to go, and again you put someone in the house. Is it that it is the mindset that we have towards building, or is it that it is the local authority who give us this land to build, and because you do not understand the area, you go ahead to construct? And when rain season comes, you say it's flooding, you've already put your investment there. You're not going to abandon your investment. You decide to just go ahead and finish with your construction. So a lot of questions have been popping up. And yesterday, the Vice President, Mutadena Lumango, disclosed that government is considering paying rentals for people whose houses have submerged in water in the wake of floods in the parts of Lusaka and other areas. The Vice President was responding to a follow-up question from Shuangandu Constituency Member of Parliament, Stephen Kampyongo, who wanted to know what other plans the government has put to safeguard flood victims. The parliamentarian also wanted to know if government will provide further resources beyond the 5% allocation under the Constituency Development Funds, CDF. And Mrs. Nalumango says government is not looking at moving people as a unit, but on a case-by-case basis and providing immediate assistance. She says government has the plan to construct canals and relocate people from flood-prone areas, as well as find permanent solutions to the perennial problems. So that was the Vice President responding in Parliament yesterday to some of the questions that were raised by Stephen Kampyongo, who's of course Shuangandu Member of Parliament, in aiding the flood victims. Let's get to hear what the Vice President said yesterday.
To raise the matter of urgent public importance is a huge challenge that cannot be handled using that small component of CDF. May we know from you, Your Honor, the Vice President, how many households and families are affected in Chawama constituency, and how many families have been evacuated by the Disaster Management and Mitigation Unit from those flooded areas where houses have submerged? I thank you, Madam Mr. Speaker.
Doing to those that are in flooded area where the water is locked. And I must mention, for example, also, before I respond to that, because you may just be interested, that in Kamwala, is it Kamwala South, the water is actually coming from the ground. It is not even the water that is coming that is the issue. But we are trying to pump out where we can. We are creating canals where we can. But the people that are flooded, we are in the process of lifting them there. We have a plan to take them from there. We are looking at also the security of even the infrastructure after the people move. So we are working together to see that the people who are affected can be taken to other places. Except this time, the intention of government, I can reveal to this August House, is not to take people to one big group and keep them there, but to allow them to find alternative accommodation so that government can help to pay the rentals for the time before, if they need to come back. If not, we definitely have to help them find permanent places. I think under DMMU, we have said, let us not go through perennial issues, year in, year out.
There you have it. That was the Vice President yesterday responding to Shiwangandu Member of Parliament, Stephen Kampyongo, assuring that government is also considering paying renters for those who've been affected by the floods. So this is where we were asking a question: where is the problem? Is it because of mindsets that we have? You know this place gets flooded, but you go ahead to construct a house there. Or is it because the local authority have been giving people wrong areas to construct their houses? That's why we are seeing issues of flooding. Or is it because of climate change? Perhaps those areas that are flooded, when you look at the past, it has not been the case, but this year, because of having too much rains, they experienced those challenges. And then yesterday, before we close the program, we have a team from the United States of America, accompanied by a Zambian-born US-based cardiologist, Dr. Sula Mazimba, who have successfully conducted 2 open surgeries at the Hearts Hospital in Lusaka. Dr. Mazimba says the 2 surgeries, comprising an open hole to the heart, which has been replaced, and a micro valve replacement, in which a valve has been replaced, are complex conditions, and that it is encouraging to see Zambia's infrastructure accommodate such kind of surgery. Dr. Mazimba has, however, appealed to the government to consider buying more equipment for the hospital, as well as replace old equipment to ensure that more complex conditions are attended to within the country. Meanwhile, a 15-year-old patient, Emara Diol, who currently underwent surgery, says she is happy that her surgery was conducted locally and as opposed to going outside of the country. So we have Zambia's first ever heart hospital here in Lusaka, where we have some team of cardiologists coming from the United States of America who have come to Zambia to offer their skills to the health practitioners, to transfer that skill to health practitioners at the the Heart Disease Hospital in Lusaka. So they managed to conduct 3 surgeries, and among them there is one where a patient had a heart condition. She had a hole in the heart, and they actually closed up that hole. The other one required a valve replacement. You know, the complement of a heart. There are those valves, if you remember the ones we learned about in school. You remember, you realize that some people are born with challenges in the valves, and yesterday they managed to have one of the operation where they closed the valve. And these, of course, have also come with some benefits. They've actually come with some equipment which they are donating to the Hearts Hospital in order to enhance technology aspect of how things are being done. So we did zoom into that headline, that story that made headline in our news, and let's get to hear what the doctor said yesterday. A team of medical experts, mostly comprising of cardiologists from the United States of America, accompanied by a Zambian-born US-based cardiologist, Dr. Sula Mazimba, have successfully conducted 3 heart surgeries of complex condition at the National Hearts Hospital in Lusaka. 2 of the surgeries comprised of an open hole to the heart and a micro valve replacement. The team is in the country for 10 days to help transfer skills to the medical practitioners at the facility, conduct screening on community members, as well as donate equipment to the health facility.
I had my operation on Tuesday.
Do you know what kind of operation it was?
Yes.
Can you tell us about it?
It was an open heart. They had to open my chest and then open my heart and then patch it.
So how are you feeling now?
Better.
And Dr. Mazimba says he is happy to come back to Zambia and offer his service to the country that bred him, and says health literacy is key to addressing some of the challenges being faced in the health sector.
There are 2 open surgeries. One was a complex hole in the heart that ordinarily would be taken outside the country, which we were able to close here with our colleagues and there's an ongoing surgery right now that is a mitral valve replacement. We're replacing the valve. And so we've had 3 surgeries, and you'll be talking to the surgeons that are actually in the OR.
The doctor has since called on the government to invest in equipment as well as replace the old ones in order for the facility to accommodate more complex surgeries which are mostly done outside the country.
We have the facilities that have excellent capabilities for being able to do complex surgeries, and it's an ongoing investment in any institution. So I think that more resources will need to be allocated for other more advanced devices and equipment, and even maybe replacing the old equipment.
A National Health Hospital Senior Medical Superintendent Dr. Chiwela Shumba says there is need to invest more in heart conditions as more people are living with such conditions in the country.
HIV affects 38 million people globally. 67% of those people are in sub-Saharan Africa. Rheumatic heart disease affects 40 million people, and 80% are in Africa. I'd like to call on the people from the media. Can we highlight this disease? Because yes, HIV is also very bad, but it's getting all the investment.
With Zambia aspiring to become a prosperous middle-income country by the year 2030, investing in more health infrastructure is key at achieving the Sustainable Development Goal number 3, which speaks of good health and well-being for all. Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News. There you have it. That was, pardon me, a clip that we brought for you yesterday from the Heart Hospital in Lusaka. That operation was actually being done right here in Zambia. Remember, in the past, such conditions, people had to travel to other countries to access health facilities, but they are actually being done right here in Zambia. What an encouragement. I think we need to invest more in the health sector for us to achieve Zambia's Vision 2030. And of course, developmental goal number 3, which talks about the well-being of people. So a good health and well-being of people, we cannot achieve that if we have not invested in infrastructure. Dr. Mazimba there even mentioned to say he is happy to actually see such kind of infrastructure where such kind of operations are now being conducted locally. So when the team in the US came, they also came with some equipment, which they have given, of course, their heart hospital in Zambia. And of course, you know, being in a surgery room, when you come out, you wouldn't like to eat meat because you are seeing a human heart has been removed from the body. It is just seated out there, and there is all this happening. And you know, there is the machine that are working. And this also gave me a thought. You know, when we were coming, we were discussing to say, but you know, a person's heart has been removed and they are just on a machine. What happens if electricity goes? And I know the hospital has put up some backups. But where the problem is, remember there was an incident that particular day where someone wanted to steal a transformer at the university teaching hospital. You know what that would have done? Imagine someone is in a surgery like that, and then you suddenly just steal a transformer. You kill that life, which is not supposed to be the case. Remember, what is being done on that person can be you next time. So let's be responsible. Let's stop raiding public properties because you might be killing a life by doing that. But I am excited that said surgery is actually being done in Zambia. And Dr. Mazimba, of course, is born and bred in Zambia, but is currently working in the US. And time after time, he keeps coming back just to appreciate his country by coming back to offer his skills and, of course, transfer that to other practitioners at the Heart Hospital. So that was the story that we brought to you on Camnet TV. And that particular story wraps up the program this morning. It has been an honor to actually have you on the program, accompany us when we were having a discussion with regards to the launch of When Destiny Calls, Princess Inonge Mutukwa winner. I had the former permanent secretary, Dr. Ponga, from the Ministry of Gender, who was just discussing that, and she spoke a lot of important things. In case you missed the interview, she spoke more than just the book launch, to go ahead and speak about how women are actually facing a challenge, taking up political positions, and what is it that we can do moving forward. So this has been your host, Prudence Chota. Thank you so much for everyone watching us. I know I've got some of the people when I meet them at church who always tell me we watch your program. I appreciate you, Mom, for watching, and I know you're watching this program. We really appreciate you for your company. We appreciate everyone who's been watching us, and keep watching Camnet TV. Remember, Camnet TV is not just another channel. For now, it's bye and God bless you. See you next time.